Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your wisdom, your genius, and your joy. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 26 years. Through 2 businesses as a success coach and a business strategist, and prior to that, an entertainment publicist and a talent manager for 2 decades. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic to you and for you, but you will live the beautiful life that's meant just for you. You'll come to learn that following your joy is a life and a business strategy. Listen in for inspiring entrepreneurial stories and solocasts that illuminate how by trusting your intuition, you'll create a fulfilling result. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. Hello, creatives. How are you today? I am eager to share with you our next, and I call it an intriguing guest. But before I go into a formal introduction of her, I want to call your attention to 2 coaching videos that I did I did about a week ago. Yeah. And it's on my Instagram page, Facebook business page, and LinkedIn account. And video 1 is about 10 minutes. And these are coaching videos. This is me, talking about a couple topics. The first one is Lesson Learned, Coach Tells All. So most of my best teachings come from my own lessons learned, while in a challenge. And such was the case as this. So I'm grateful to pass on the lesson learned and solution so that you can better your business and decision making. Because the topic has to do with the powerful effect of staying in your zone of genius and focusing on your high payoff activities most of your day while operating your business. And this can be tricky, so be careful. Now, your zone of genius is one of my passions to teach you. And it's in all my programs. You've heard this many times. But remember that operating in your genius zone is the ultimate leverage strategy so that you can, and this is my acronym for ADD, automate, delegate, or delete. Okay, everything else other than your zone of genius. So when we lean too much away from our zone of genius and take on non-genius work, remember, this is highest creativity. Your genius, everyone, I'm going to repeat this, it has nothing to do with IQ and everything to do with what you're meant to be doing in your highest creativity, what you love to do. So back to, is that when we lean too much away from this and take on non-genius work, our revenues can fluctuate because it's our highest payoff activities more than what you think you're doing now and not remain consistent in our revenues. So, and you can also feel out of sync because you're in what we call the excellence zone, which according to Gay Hendricks, remember the author of The Big Leap, where I teach some of this content, his hierarchy of the zones of competence, the excellent zone is right below the genius zone. So rather than in your zone of genius, you're in your excellent zone. You got to be careful of that and learn what the difference is. And in your zone of genius, it's that happy place, again, your highest revenue generating activities, your highest creativity, and your most joy. Okay, this is real stuff. This is not just, oh, doesn't that sound nice? It's real stuff. And that's what I go through in this video is what happened to me just recently, or in fact, around the production of this podcast and what I and my team did and what I ended up having to do to pull back. Well, I'm not going to tell you now. It's all in the coaching video. So listen to that, watch it, listen to it. I literally take you behind the scenes of when I wasn't in my zone of genius and what happened to me in my business. All right. Second coaching video is about 12 minutes long. This one is about money, which I call it's the biggest story on the planet, and everyone has one, a money story. Our relationship with money is the most profound relationship we will have in our lifetime, next to our higher power, ourselves, and our significant other. Our relationship with money, how we think, feel, and act with money, is formed during our childhood via imprints, just like everything else, right? And the experiences that we had with our caregivers and society. And I must add, it's no fault of anyone's. Therein lies what I love to teach, which is about your money legacy. What are the habits, behaviors, and mindset that you're passing on unbeknownst to you? Okay, it's all right. You don't realize it around money, right? And so I go through in that video more detail around this whole money relationship thing and what happens when you transform it, right? Again, part of my core genius is teaching this, because I too had money story that was not working for me all the way up until 2010, when I was coached, and then I took on certification, 2 of them, to teach this. And it changed everything about my life, my clients' lives. Amazing. So yes, in that video is I talk about what are those money rules that you're living by, and how the solution is to transform your relationship with money to change those money rules that you think are the truth, and they're not. All right. Woo, good stuff. So listen in on that. And if you're, in fact, my email list received that, it was the week of the 23rd. I think it was January 26th when we sent out an email with those 2 videos. So if you're on my email list, awesome. Thank you so much. And you received it. If you're not, go ahead to marladiane.com/free. And it will take you to 3 of my free resources. They're downloads. And it will put you on my private email list. All right. All right. Other than that, go to Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook to get those videos. Okay. Let's move on. So let's bring on my intriguing guest. And I know you will find her fascinating, as I have, because it's a topic close to my heart and everything what this podcast has to say, which is about intuition. So Katie Beecher is a global medical and spiritual intuitive and a licensed professional counselor for over 30 years. And I love her mission to help as many people as possible connect to their intuition. Does that sound familiar? Find unconditional love and self-acceptance. And she writes, I have learned that with these things, health, happiness, and even miracles are possible. So as part of her acclaimed readings, as in spiritual readings, she creates, this is so cool, she creates a detailed multi-page report and intuitive soul painting. God, I love that. That's so unique. Knowing only a person's name and age. Yeah, pretty darn cool. Her expertise emerged from her own healing journey, which she'll share a little bit about, which began at the age of 16 from a severe eating disorder and suicidal depression. She started therapy without telling her parents, or anyone else for that matter, when she was with a Jungian therapist who taught her how to connect with her intuition and body and discover and embrace her intuitive psychic gifts way back then, and learn how to love and accept herself. And she knew she was meant to write a book, which we're going to hear about, and help others, right? So Katie is a beautiful example of how you take, and I've done this in my coaching, you have heard this perhaps before, is how you take your personal transformation and turn it into a global message, right? what I know is what's personal is universal. We all have similar challenges. We all have challenges to overcome. And what better thing in life to do than to help another, right? And that's Katie's platform. So, Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. You have a very compelling story. What was it like to embrace your intuitive assets? I call them way back then, and share a story of perhaps an earlier, back then, an earlier intuitive session, naming no names, of course, but what came of that early, session that you did, and how did it change the person's life?
Yeah. So when I first started learning about my own abilities and intuition, and it was absolutely essential as part of my recovery. Had I not learned how to talk to my intuition and my body and treat the whole entire experience like a gift rather than something that was horrible, I would not be here. I wouldn't be healed. And so I really have kind of a different way of looking at things, which I try to inspire, my clients to look at it that way too, even though when you're going through horrible stuff. So I didn't really know what I was doing exactly. I just knew I had these gifts, and sometimes I picked up negative energies, which was very scary. And when I was young, I really didn't know how to set good spiritual boundaries. And so I kind of turned away from it all. And then I think I was maybe in my 30s. I became a therapist pretty early on after, I got my master's after my bachelor's degree. And so I was working with a young woman who also had an eating disorder. She was trying to get pregnant, and she was in recovery, so she was doing well. It's a bit risky to try and get pregnant when you have an eating disorder, not something I would advise. And she was feeling pretty despondent about the whole thing. And I have a technique that helped save my life that I teach to clients, and it's also in my book, about how to connect to intuition. And it's through a written dialogue. So she really wasn't understanding the concept or how to do it, which is perfectly okay. So I asked and she didn't really know what intuition meant to her, which is a common thing too. So I asked if there was anyone in her life that she felt like she could be her true self with, be open, and that she trusted. And she said that was her grandmother who had passed away. So I said, all right, let's do this. Let's do a role play, and I will be your grandmother and you be you, and talk to me just like, you would talk to her, and let's see if we can kind of help you feel more comfortable and love yourself and connect with that love. So we did that. And after maybe just 5 minutes, I started to see all kinds of scenes in my head of her grandmother's house and the attic that she played in when she was a young child, and the actual toys she played with. And I started to realize that I was channeling her grandmother. And I was saying things that only her grandmother knew, that she had only said to her. And it was kind of freaking her out a little bit, but it was also really comfortable. And while it was weird, it was also one of the most comfortable experiences I've ever had, because talking to your intuition is natural. It shouldn't be a woo-woo thing.
Right.
It's a very natural thing. And I don't like when people make it into something, woo-woo and that only special people can do, because it's not like that at all. We did that for a while, had a few sessions like that. And about a month later, she became pregnant, and she'd been trying for years. So we really both felt like her grandmother had a hand in that. And that's a pretty cool story. And I realized I have to incorporate this now into I can't run away from it. I can't, I need to learn more about this, develop it more, and accept it. And that's what happened. And so kind of, stemmed from there.
That is, like I said, everyone, fascinating, right? I love this stuff. And what you said, and I just wrote it down, is that talking to your intuition, right, or accessing it is natural. It's not woo-woo. And
Absolutely.
that's, and our society makes it out to be. Hence the reason why, we both stand on this as a platform, because it is natural. It is part of who we are, yet again, our society, not good, not bad, just is.
Right.
There isn't a lot of, and I will say it's getting better, and I'm sure you
I
probably
think
can
so too.
agree for sure. It's why we're here on
Right.
podcast.
Right.
It's becoming way more mainstream, but still, still, even after all these years, it's still considered as, oh, that's right. I do have intuition, don't I? I should, and women always go, if I listen to my intuition, I wouldn't be in this situation, or what have you, right? That type of thing. But I like what you said, is that talking to your intuition is natural. It's not supposed to be woo-woo.
Right. And people shouldn't be afraid of it. They shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes. A lot of people, it comes up in every session I have. I teach this all the time, and people always say, I try to listen. I don't know what I'm listening to. I'm afraid of making a mistake and getting it wrong.
Mm,
And how do I know if it's my intuition or my brain? All sorts of things. And those are really great questions. But we tend to overanalyze and
mhm,
overthink it. And instead of just seeing if the information that we receive resonates, because in truth, it doesn't really matter if it comes
mhm,
from your brain or or an intuitive force, or you know people will say, well, when I tried to do this exercise, I thought of someone I knew. Well, that's because your intuition was putting that person in your head because her or his situation pertained to yours you know so to kind of be open and go with it and see where it takes you,
mhm,
instead of having your agenda, which is, I'm just going to ask about this one aspect of my life. And if I don't get the answer that I want, that means that it's not working, or I'm not listening,
mhm.
or, so I'm being open to the, it's not really a plan, because I think that we have a lot of control over and a lot of choices, in terms of what happens.
Mhm,
But just being open to possibilities, I guess, is a great way to put it, because
mhm.
you really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the receiving part of the intuition, which is, it's literally, like you said, not having an agenda, not allowing our logic, our mindset, if you will, to try to dictate what it's supposed to look like,
Right.
and to just be kind of a conduit.
Exactly. And it's also why I teach people to talk to their bodies and talk to their symptoms, because you get a lot of intuitive information through symptoms in your body. And language can be scary.
Mhm.
Listening to words in our head can be scary, but we all get, bodily signs and things, if you will, oftentimes in our gut before we realize we're anxious, or we get heart palpitations, or we get a pain in our back or our neck or something, and you don't realize that that is your body and spirit trying to say, hey, there's an emotion here, or I'm warning you about something you need to pay attention to, or things
Mhm.
like that. So
Mhm.
it's really very, very intertwined.
It's so intertwining. And I love that we're talking about this, because this literally just happened to me last night and this morning. And because I, obviously do my best to listen to intuition and walk my talk of what I teach or coach. And that is this is last night, actually all week, I had kind of some body aches, and my lower back was kind of achy, which was kind of came on, I think it was like the beginning of the week. And I wasn't feeling as up as I normally
Yeah.
was. And I was on my way. I went to this kind of industry event, and I was really looking forward to it. It ended up being a total fun evening. And it's interesting is that going there, I was in this low vibe, achy
Mm,
body in different parts, not a happy girl all the way that I'd like to be, stressed out on certain things.
sure.
And although driving there wasn't any help because there's a lot of traffic. But the point is, on my way back, because I was so lifted by the experiences I had and the people I met and all of that, which was putting me back into my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
I love connecting with people, working in a obviously in a home-based business, which a lot of us have, can be pretty isolating. And I'm very outgoing. I love to connect with people. I feed off of people's energy. And it's a part of what I do that I miss. It's not in my component. Right? It's like it's me, the dog, and the walls of my home.
I can relate.
Right? A lot of us can relate with that. The good
Exactly.
news is we can do it. The not so good news is it's isolating. We got to get out of here. All right. So yeah, I'm driving home, totally excited, listening to all sorts of fun music on the way home, complete 180 in how I felt there. Came home, kind of, took a rest, was a little bit tired, watched a little bit of TV, and then, I went to bed and I woke up. So, all of the pain in my body was gone.
Nice.
Literally, it's like I woke up energized. I woke up in a great mood. It's like I was a completely different person. And I went, whoa, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on here? And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't surprising to me, but what I did is I made time for myself to journal it, to write it down,
Great.
to ask my body, oh my God, what's going on here? And I got it. I kind of journaled the whole evening. And I'm still feeling great. And I'm really wanting to pay attention to the emotion because, I too subscribe to, your disease begins in the emotional, right? And the emotional creates then the disease that turns into physical. And that's what I was doing. I was really kind of allowing my intuition, to kind of write through me.
Yep.
And all the emotion around it. And, I was kind of coaching myself, like, what is it so how can you create more of this? How can you be in that happy place way more often? And so forth. So there's
Yeah.
more to it, but that's exactly what happened. All the physical symptoms went away
And
and I felt
actually,
better.
a great time to do, in my book, I teach a written dialogue where you write to your intuition and it writes back to you, and
Yeah.
write to your body, it writes back to you, things like that. But a great time to do that work is when you're in the uncomfortable state.
Oh.
And so you can, basically say, hey, back pain, what would you like me to know? Why are you
Mm-hmm.
here? Are you
Mm-hmm.
trying to slow me down? How can I help you heal? Use them as messengers
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
allow them to talk to you. And then if you listen to that and respond, they don't need to be annoying and painful anymore.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this is I love this topic, which I've talked, through my life with friends that are intuitive about this, is really listening to your body. Your body is just such a great, barometer, of what's going
Definitely.
on. So yeah, God, I love that we're talking about this. So I'm curious, you were saying that when you're talking to clients, and I have talked about this on the podcast and other places and coaching, and you said, how do I know it's my intuition? I mean, I know I have an answer to that, but I want to hear yours. How do you know it's your intuition, not your ego, not your logic, all that? Yeah.
Right. So one way to, well, first of all, what I try to advise people is, if the information that you're receiving, let's say during this written dialogue, or a meditation, if it resonates with you, then it's not important to analyze it to death in terms of the source, because we are smart too. We've had experiences too. And if it resonates, perhaps your intuition jogged a memory for you, or a thought,
Mhm.
or something like that, or you remembered something that pertained to the situation that you were in. And so I really think that we get information from multiple sources, and the main thing that people get in trouble with, for lack of a better way to explain it,
Mhm.
is it intuition or is it fear?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so if something, I believe that we get intuitive hits all the time. And I find this especially in people who come to me for physical ailments or emotional ailments. And my guides in the report, reveal that they're in a really unhappy relationship, or they hate their career, or they're not being creative, or XYZ. And
Yeah.
so we talk about the fact that these are some of the root causes for why you're having these issues. And if your intuition is telling you, hey, I have to make a change, especially if it's scary, like leaving your husband or your wife or something, you know, you're going to react by feeling overwhelmed and afraid and not knowing where to start,
Yeah.
and things like that. So the tendency is to push that intuitive information down. And so then intuition can feel like fear, but if you're listening and it resonates with you, even if it's a little scary,
Mm.
um, then it's probably quite accurate. If it's something that just, terrifies you and doesn't resonate at all, then I wouldn't really, pay attention to that.
Mhm.
But it's also important to know that you have a choice
Mhm.
about whether you want to listen to your intuition or not. So you may be talking to it and get this information, hey, I need to leave my job. And you might be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know.
Mm.
And at that point, you can say, all right, well, let me talk to you more about that. Why is that scary? Can you give me a place to start? Where am I at? Or that day, you might say, you know what? I hear you. I appreciate the information, but I need to table this to another day because I
Mm.
just cannot deal with this right now.
Mm.
And that way you're validating what you're hearing, but you're not letting it scare you, and you're not letting it take over. Um, so I think the quality and type of information is a lot more important than analyzing,
Mm.
necessarily the source.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, boy, can we ever try to analyze? A lot of
Dear
us tend to
absolutely.
be, over
Discharge.
analyzers. Yeah, and I find that being that my world is creative, and that's who I typically coach, are creatives, business owners, is that we can do that, is we can overanalyze. And I know it's
Absolutely.
not exclusive to creatives, but I find it comes up often.
It does, because with creative people and intelligent people, there's so much activity going on in your brain,
Mm.
so many thoughts and ideas, and they're great. But it's also like, oh my God, where do I start? What do I do with all
Mm.
this?
Yep.
What do I prioritize? Like when I was writing my book, I had 30 years of information in my head, plus the information from my guides. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I, how do I sort this out?
Yeah.
I mean, thank God for editors.
Mhm.
So I was very overwhelmed, and it it was definitely a process.
Yeah.
Um, so it's very challenging.
Yeah. It is. And that's, uh, as I'm, coaching the creatives. And I had this challenge too until I learned how to, if you will, corral it, as in focus it, and learn from
Exactly.
my mentors. And I mean, that's part of the sweet spot that, I find I'm able to help creatives with, is literally help them focus,
For sure.
focus, because they're so brilliant. Right? They've got, like you said, so many ideas. They're just in a constant, kind of creation mode. And I'll go, no, 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 yeah, just focus on this. Get that idea, just put it on your like idea list. Just let it out of your head, put it on the list, and don't do anything with it.
Right, right,
In
right.
other words, just because ideas come in, I wonder if you experience this yourself. Just because
Definitely.
ideas come in, it doesn't mean you need to take action on it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And what do we do? I say, ask your intuition.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you take action, or is it just a good idea and maybe later?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I find um, very creative people, and actually, I did some research when I was in college about people with eating disorders.
Mm,
And I learned that an extremely high percentage of them are extremely creative.
mm,
So it's
mm.
an addiction is a way of releasing trauma and feeling overwhelmed and feeling like you can't trust yourself and kind of sorting out a lot of that maybe chaos and confusion in your life, you know, and eating disorder is just another form of addiction.
Right.
So I was really fascinated in my, my former life. I was also a professional watercolor artist. So yeah, I can relate to all of this stuff
Yeah.
personally too.
Which is why you do the one of your options
Yes.
in your readings. It's not in all of them. I know it's in a couple of them that you
It's in most of them.
most of them, yeah. That you do that painting, which I think is so unique. I love when I first read that, I went, oh, of course she's an artist. Of course she's, it's like very unique that you offer that. I love it. And I want to, listeners, I want to emphasize, being creative doesn't necessarily mean it's the arts. Okay. It
Correct.
can be, but I'm always saying this all the time because I actually have clients go, I didn't realize I was creative. I'm like, yeah, you are. What do you love to do when you're not working? Oh, gardening and cooking and, those types of things. I go, and that's not creative. So creativity can be also in your work. It can be problem solving, right? That's
Right. And just
creative.
how you run your business, different ways of getting your ideas across, or
Right.
marketing, or all kinds of things. I mean, that's also creative.
It's all creative. There's so many forms of creativity. It's, the whole AI metaverse, that's
Right.
hugely creative.
Exactly.
The experts are out there creating a whole other internet called the metaverse.
Right.
And it's virtual and it's living in this, we all know what it's like, the VR, when you put on the glass, those goggles, and you're in this whole other world. The point is that's creative. Architecture obviously is highly creative, problem solving and so forth. So yes, it's not exclusive, everyone, to the arts. It definitely is part of it. So
Right.
don't be thinking you're not creative.
But even as a therapist, I'm a very eclectic therapist. I use a lot of Jungian psychology techniques. He used art therapy. I love art therapy. So when you're working with people, you have to figure out what kind of methodology is going to resonate with this client, and how can I say things in a way that they're going to hear it, and um, not shut down. And I mean, there's just so much creativity in all that.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so share with us what brings you the most joy, hence follow your joy. What
Right,
brings
right.
you the most joy in your work and your business?
I love seeing people come from the state that I was in, which was just, I hated myself. I didn't know who I was. I was terrified. I had no boundaries. It was just a mess. And to watch people find their courage to start working on themselves, to be open to doing things differently, to be open to looking at their symptoms or their illness, and instead of focusing on those, to say, I am not my symptom, I'm not my illness, I am more than that, and I'm going to venture out and do some things I'm afraid of, or maybe put on a bathing suit when I'm really not fond of my body, or have the courage to start making changes, and to just watch the transformations of people who just say, I'm ready. I'm not going to do this perfectly. I don't need to. But that professionally, and helping them connect to intuition and spirit, that is just, it's why I got into this. I
Right.
believe it's why I went through all of that
Mhm.
crap, basically. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's amazing.
Yeah. No, very much so. Yeah, it when somebody gets to a place of being humble, they're coachable. And that's what you're talking about, right? Is, they've got to be coachable, because then you can do your magic, you can
For
do your
sure.
genius. And in that is the joy, because doing what you do is your joy. It's
Yes,
you're in your genius, right? So you're doing, one of many things that you were meant to do on this planet.
exactly,
So
exactly,
that's the point. It's like, we got to do what brings us joy, right?
exactly. And it's hard to figure that out unless you're being your true authentic self.
Right. Correct. And you're listening to your intuition and following
Exactly,
your
which is
ideas.
all part of it. Yep,
It's
yep,
all
yep.
part of it. Yeah, good. Very good. So, all right, share with us a story. I know you have many, of course, over 30 years. Share, a story where you followed your intuition, right? That led to a joyful, fulfilling result in your life.
Goodness, there are so many.
Yeah.
Um, I know. Where do I start? I think, okay, so this is a good one. I about 10 years ago found out that I had Lyme disease and co-infections and the whole 9 yards. I grew up in Connecticut and 2 towns away from Lyme. And I found out that I had probably had Lyme my whole life. And there were various, expressions of it. Doctors never picked it up, which is kind of amazing, but that's the way it goes. And
Hmm.
it was scary at first, but then I said, you know what? I really like the person that I'm working with, and I trust them, and I trust myself, and I'm going to go deeper with this because I am not an illness. I'm not going to let that
Right.
scare me.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, I'm going to talk to my intuition and talk to this Lyme and the mold and all the other stuff I had, and ask it, what are you here for?
Hmm.
Why now? Why have I found this out? What do you need me to know? How can I heal? And much to my surprise, it wrote back, it's time to write the proposal for your book, finally. The one
Oh,
that you told when you
interesting.
were 16 years old you needed to write. Okay. And that's what I was like 47. So
Interesting.
I said, oh my God, I am not a writer. How the hell? I don't know where to start. I don't like, but they're like, if you want to get better, you need to do this. That's the deal.
Wow.
So I said, okay. And so I wrote my first proposal, wrote about 10 after that with help because it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, obviously I have a book now, but I am fully recovered. I've been fully recovered for a long time, and it's
Oh,
changed my life. Like the depression that I'd had since I was a little kid that wouldn't fully go away ever, it's gone. I mean, so many things that I didn't even know were Lyme relatable are gone. So that was a huge leap of faith for so many reasons. And if I
that's,
had not trusted,
yeah.
then yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. That is, yeah. Who would have thunk? Right?
Exactly. I
Who would have
know.
thunk to heal the Lyme disease and everything else was to go write a book? What? Couldn't go
I,
write a book.
it was like, I know I'm supposed to, but like, can't you write it for me?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I mean, they
So,
kind of did, but
yeah. So tell us the name of the book, where people can get it. Talk to us about the book.
absolutely. So it's called Heal from Within, a guidebook to intuitive wellness. And it is the main part of it is that I wanted to help people get to the root physical, emotional, and spiritual, root causes of their issues. And I wanted to help people can learn to connect to intuition and find their authentic self. And there's a lot of stories in there about ways that people have recovered, but it's kind of like going through a medical and spiritual intuitive reading with me, where I take people through all the chakras, I help them identify their issues and all of the events in their life, their every single thing going on in your life potentially, impacts your health and wellness. So I help them identify all of that. And then there's tons of tools and activities and things for kind of navigating all this, putting it all together, and different aspects of healing. And then the second part of the book is a lot of like specific illnesses and things where I just kind of touch on stuff you could do and the origin and things like that. But it's a book with a lot of visuals. There's, you know, charts and tools and things, and it's a very hands-on book. I wanted to give people things that they could actually do, you know, Jungian psychology tools that they could actually do themselves. And yeah, it's gotten really great reviews, and I get amazing feedback, and that's pretty darn amazing for me.
It's like you in a book, right? It's
yes, my husband calls
Katie
it
in a book. Go get
yes.
Katie. Yeah.
No, my husband calls it Katie Beecher, the home game. So, you know,
Katie Beecher, the home
game.
Okay.
But yeah, it's on, you know, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and your bookstore, local bookstore can order it for you if it's not there. It's
But
in all.
It's on Amazon though.
Yeah. In all
Okay.
different forms and all over the world and all that great stuff.
Is it in different languages yet, or
Not yet? Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just came out last February, so almost a year.
Oh wow, congratulations. So
Yeah.
it's still new.
It is.
It's still new. So it was, you said February or January 2022?
February
2022.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how exciting. Wow. All right. So see, go ahead, get her book and hire her for a reading. I love that. All right. So the last, to kind of wrap this up. So based on your experience in life, which is plenty, what key advice can you give our creatives? Just one of your golden nuggets.
And also my website's katiebeecher.com.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Stuff through there. Okay.
Yeah, we'll put that all in the show notes.
Absolutely. So my best piece of advice is to, even if you don't feel lovable or secure or confident, to start loving yourself. And it can be baby steps. It can be recognizing when you give yourself a negative message and just saying, you know what, I noticed that, I'm going to stop it. Or if you look in the mirror and the first thing you go to is a body part you don't like, recognize that and say, I'm going to look at something that I really do like. Or do you start with doing little bits of self-care, setting boundaries. You're not going to change overnight, and you're not supposed to, and you don't need to. But you can start right now. You can, write some affirmations to yourself. You can decide, I'm going to do one nice thing for myself tomorrow, whatever. But self-love is truly the biggest, most important gift you can give yourself. And everything else stems from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, self-care, which I put in that, obviously, that another version of what you just said. It's just so vital. So vital that, I mean, it's part of coaching is
for sure.
Right. I mean, I know you probably have that all the time and with your clients, and that is teaching people. It's boundaries, has everything to do with boundaries, right? And self-care.
It's important for caregivers and coaches, and, to recognize, I see people usually sometimes 3 days a week, but I've set it up where I have those other days to do the other stuff I need to do.
Yep.
And I limit the amount of people I see. And that's because I get burnt out and I have to set those boundaries, so we can all do that in our own way. Beautiful.
Yeah. Amen. Good. Yeah, very good. So where can people get in touch with you, and what would you like to offer, which, by the way, will be in the show notes. So yeah, verbally let us know. What is it?
Yeah, the best way is my website, which is katiebeecher.com. Okay. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all the things. And I would like to offer people $20 off any of the services.
Okay.
And the code is $20 OF. No, it's not. I'm so sorry. It's the number 20, then $, then OFF.
Okay. $20 off. And again, we'll have that in the show notes.
And if you have any trouble using the code, you shouldn't. But if you do, please write to me. Let me know, and I'll make those arrangements for you.
Okay. Very, very good. I love that. All right. So everybody, yeah, if you want I mean, you've got to be super intrigued, after listening today, and go hire Katie. Go
Thank you.
find out.
You will learn more than you ever wanted to know about yourself.
100%. I mean, I love this topic. It's always fascinating, because we are so much more complex in a good way than we allow ourselves to understand.
Definitely.
And, just to be able to sit in a reading with someone that can really, navigate, if you will. And like you said, say something that's going to actually resonate, and maybe they've been afraid to admit.
And I send the reports before I meet with people. And so there's all the juicy stuff on the report. I can't BS it.
Yeah.
And it's often things that you haven't told anybody. So people have said this is like a year of therapy, in an hour, because you don't have to start with all that stuff again. So yeah.
For sure. And I've had, over the years, I've had, I'm a big believer in readings, and I've had them, and I've had them for my dog. I've had them for me.
Yep. I love doing pets. Yep.
Right. Animal communication. Yeah. All that great stuff. I love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And until next episode, everyone, as you work and live, always follow your joy, because that high vibe is trying to tell you something. It's not just a nice feeling, right? It's trying to tell you something. So pay attention and take action. All right. You all take care, and I'll be back with you soon. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening in. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my 3 free downloads to up-level your business and your life. How about you take a screenshot of this episode and tag me on Instagram by sharing your highlights of what you learned today? I'd love to connect there with you. Until next episode, take care.